Hello and welcome to Rantzerker number 2, Eve Ensler. Suddenly, my body. Joining me today is Karen Strawn.
Hello.
The irrepressible Karen Strawn. And we will get started. Let's just get started. Let's just do it. Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Oh, wait. I have to do it. Okay.
Yes, you have to do it. Oh, how you have fallen, TEDx or TED.
Yeah, it's not even TEDx.
It's TED Talks.
It's not even the fake TED. It's the real TED. It's the actual TED. Like,
yeah,
how bad is that?
How does that happen? How seriously? Like
I was putting in my headphones, but I just realized that if we want the audio to play, it has to be picked up by my speakers. So headphones off.
Oh yeah, that's fine. But like this is like before she was in the kiddie paddling pool. I don't know the various hierarchies of TED. I know there's TedWomen, there's TEDx, and now there's TED Talk. Well, TED Talks was the main one, right?
Yeah.
And so she's graduated.
Yes.
Somebody says that this is important to see.
Yeah, no, her vagina is like very important.
Yeah, we don't even see it though. It's like,
well, maybe she'll show it. Maybe this isn't all.
Do you really want to see the bat cave though?
I do.
Some cobwebs and bats flying out of it.
I do. I want to see.
Well, she certainly talks it up enough. Anyway, let's continue.
It's legendary. I need to see it.
For a long time, there was me and my body. Me was composed of stories, of cravings, of strivings, of desires of the future. Me was trying not to be an outcome of my violent past, but the separation that had already occurred between me and my body was a pretty significant outcome.
I do.
All right. So, me was once a person.
Yeah.
Yes, like a normal human being, and then something happened. Like something took over her, like the aliens from like a science fiction story. She became a pod person. Her vagina swallowed her up. All right. Did you want to say something when you stopped there?
Honestly, I'm looking at her, right? And I'm just, she's crazy.
Yeah, well, you had an encounter with her in the wild, didn't you?
In real life, yeah. No,
yeah.
I was at I think it was the 2012 National Organization for Women Conference, and she was the keynote speaker. And it felt like I was in a room full of aliens. Her very first words as she went up on stage, enormous applause. Oh my God, Eve Ensler, woo! Right? She runs up on stage through the crowd, right? Not from backstage, but down through the middle of the crowd. And she gets up there and she's behind the podium and she yells, "Are the vaginas in the house?" And everybody's like, woo! And then she says, "Are any vagina-friendly men in the house?" And I'm thinking to myself, you just referred to women as body parts and men as persons. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, I guess it does speak to the whole idea that women are simply reduced down to how they're acted upon. And I suppose the organ that is most acted upon is the vagina in Eve's cosmology.
Well, in the feminist cosmology, because anything, any kind of prejudice against a woman, any kind of discrimination against a woman, any kind of violence against a woman is all gendered. It's all because they are women. Like every single time I see violence against women brought up, it's not violence that happens to be perpetrated against a woman because she happened to be there at the time, right? It's violence that's perpetrated against a woman specifically because she's a woman. Or alternately, in spite of the fact that she's a woman. So sometimes somebody will perpetrate violence against a woman that they would normally only have perpetrated against a man, but the fact that they did this is indicative. It's also makes it gendered, because then they're doing it, you know, to a woman when they otherwise would not have. So therefore, there's some kind of gendered element to it, and it's just like every single fucking thing that happens to a woman, according to these particular women, has something to do with the fact that they're women. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're humans. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, or that they did something to precipitate it or to provoke it. It's all just because they're women, right? And so, of course, the vagina is the primary thing there, because that's what makes you a woman, is your vagina. So, yeah.
Me with
Allegedly.
Sorry?
I said allegedly.
Oh, well, yeah, well, I would agree. I would agree that, you know, that's not necessarily the definitive thing that makes you a woman, but for most women, the vagina is sort of like intrinsic to womanhood. Your vagina, your uterus, your breasts, right? All of the things that tend to be secondary sexual characteristics that men don't tend to have. Those are all things that define you as female-bodied, right?
Okay, so she essentially reduces women down to those things that separate them from men.
Yeah, well,
and almost fetishizes them.
To their female bodies, yes.
Okay.
They're not persons, they're female bodies.
It's sort of creepy.
Oh God. Well, look at her here. You can see my cursor. Like, look at that. Like, how is that not, like, I remember watching some freaking vampire movie that was set up in the, like, north of the Arctic Circle, where, like, it was like the land of the midnight sun, and, you know, you had that, like, 6 months of no sun type thing, right? And there's this vampire cult right there that, like, just eats people alive, right? Her here, she looks like the dude who was in that leader. He was the leader of the vampire cult. Like, she's sort of, it's almost like she wants to come across as sort of grotesque.
Well, she did recently have cancer. Well, in this video. So that might be, but my husband pointed out, like, I mean, you don't have to look that skeletal and bald. You can actually present an image of relative health if you want to, but he's pointed out that maybe she intentionally kept herself bald because it encourages people to see her as a victim, as a victim of something.
Her hair
vulnerable.
Her hair does not look like it is in the process of growing in after chemotherapy, because that would be really patchy, right?
It looks like it's shaved.
It looks like it's been buzzed off. And like, granted, she has, and granted, like, I do the short hair thing all the time too, right? And she has sort of gone back and forth between, like, as far as I can tell, she sort of buzzes her whole head every 6 months or so. And then, you know, because when I saw her in person, she had, you know, longer hair. It was still short, but it was longer than this. But it was not shaped or styled in any way. It looked like it had just grown out from a buzz cut. And I don't really have any problem with that. What I'm looking at is, I mean, she appears to be wearing makeup here, but none of it appears to be making her look healthy or, you know, attractive. It just seems to be sort of almost for shock value, to make her look as if she's kind of
Screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
a little goth. She's going for the goth look right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the thing is that these are purposeful choices about someone's appearance.
Yeah. Well, but, and I can understand, like, I can understand the whole goth thing. You know, you want to make a purposeful choice. You want to wear, like, ghost makeup and black lipstick and stuff like that, right? Like, fine, go ahead, but don't act all outraged when people stare at you, right?
Or actually infer some intent behind looking like that and going on stage like that. I mean, like my husband said, it almost is put on to make her look as strangely vulnerable and yet sinister. That's possible. Maybe the sinister wasn't intentional.
I don't think the sinister was intentional, but I think she does want to look like she is
sick.
Yeah, and yet strong.
Yeah, okay, let's move on.
Trying to become something, somebody. Me only.
Whoa. So you wanted to become somebody. At some point in time, there was an Eve Ensler who wanted to become somebody. Ensler. Yeah, Ensler. Well, you know, I mispronounce everything.
I know you do.
So wanted to become something. And this is what's funny, because there's this one paragraph where she's talking about what she was before. She was a driven woman who wanted to become somebody, who wanted to do something. I'm like, where did that Eve Ensler go? Because that Eve Ensler sounds more badass than this Eve Ensler. You know what I mean? Like, there's that one paragraph. Continue.
No, I agree. Honestly, part of me wonders, right? Whenever I come across women like this, and I've come across a few of them in my life, and I am one of those women who came up through girlhood, rebelling against the status quo and arguing against the norm. And like my mother, she used to call me an odd duck, right? And she also used to call me a Philadelphia lawyer, right? And it was because any rule of the house or society, I had this urge to argue against it. I was just like, yeah, no, I don't think I should have to put, like 6 years old, I don't think I should have to put up with this because of this, this, and this, right? And eventually she would just get so exhausted. She would just be like, you know why you have to do this? Because I said so, because I am the mother and you are the daughter, and that is the way things work. And if you don't like it, you can go in your room, maybe with a swat to the seat of your pants on the way. Right? Because she just like, I would just completely freaking exhaust her. Right? That's how willful I was. But at the same time, she never put me in dresses. She never made me have my hair a way that I didn't want to have it. She never made me act more ladylike. She didn't care about that kind of stuff. I mean, like so many of these women that I've come across that are like really rampantly feminist, right? They're women who sort of were like me as a kid, and their moms and dads were like, yeah, no way is any daughter of mine going to play with Lego. And so part of me is like, maybe this is just, maybe there's some point where people like this will no longer have, because this seems to be this, like, I wanted to be a person, but I wasn't allowed to be a person.
No, actually, this is what she's railing against. This is what she says. It's if you go forward a couple seconds, you'll hear what she says.
Okay.
My body was often in the way.
Okay, sorry, stop it for a minute. All right, so to go back to what she said, this is what she says. I was trying not to become an outcome of my violent past, but the separation had already occurred between me and my body, and was a pretty significant outcome. Me was always trying to become something, somebody. Me only existed in the trying. My body was often in the way. It's like, that is the credo of anyone who achieves anything, who sees themselves in terms of their achievements and actions. Yeah, often your body is in the freaking way. You want to run 10 miles, your body wants to run 2. Yeah. You want to be able to do 24 hours straight writing that book that you just suddenly got a freaking lightning bolt of inspiration about. Your body wants to sleep. You know, this is the cry of the people who do things, who achieve things, who other people look back and say, hey, wow, you're really passionate about this thing to the point where you almost sacrifice you do sacrifice your body. That's incredible. Like, I'll give you attention and recognition for what you've done. Yeah. And this is what she's rebelling against. But the other thing is that she will simultaneously say that this is a bad thing, and then complain that men who are encouraged, this is men's content, like, read it. My body was often in the way. I existed only in the trying. I was always trying to become something. This is the male role. Yeah. In our society, it's achievement-orientated male role. Yeah. And she's saying, that's something that was inflicted on her by her past trauma. Okay, Eve, well, let's take that to its conclusion.
Well, that automatically means that men are all traumatized.
Yeah, well, I mean, not just in her cosmology, but also, I mean, we can say that. But the other thing is that, life is a scar. Sometimes we just have to live with it. And we have to embrace that role of being an agent and doing shit. We can't all just live in our fucking girl cells, crying.
Yeah.
And you know what? My body is an encumbrance. I want to fucking go 24/7, 60 miles an hour, and it doesn't let me.
Look at my boyfriend, right? Like, he's got an autoimmune disorder, right? That essentially, until he finally got sort of tentatively diagnosed, sort of almost with an orphan disease that they aren't sure he has, but they've put him on drugs to treat it. He was, essentially going into anaphylaxis 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes 14 hours after the last thing he put in his body. So, and of course this puts you into shock, and then you have like maybe 24 hours of having extremely low blood pressure and just not being able to even drag your ass out of bed, right? And somehow in the midst of this, right, he finished the most difficult engineering program that is available in Canada, right? He managed to push himself to the limit. He managed to and his body betrays him. His body fucking wants to fuck him over at every turn, right? And yet
he strives past it.
He tries to transcend it, right? And he resents his body, but he doesn't resent it because he's a man. He resents it because it's got limitations that other people don't necessarily have, right?
But even so, like, if you look at the people that we give medals to in the modern age, it's people who defy the limits of their bodies. They don't just sit there saying, "Oh, my body hurts." I mean, there was a woman, I forget her name. I'd have to, because I'm terrible with names. She had an accident. She was a downhill skier. And during the Olympics, she had an accident in which I believe she punctured one lung and broke a bunch of ribs. But she got up and she finished her run, and I think she got bronze or silver.
Yeah.
Because that's an incredible feat of courage and endurance.
Of course. And you look at there was one NHL player, and I forget who it was. Like, my boyfriend will never forgive me for forgetting who it was, but he broke a leg. He fractured a leg in the middle of a game, and he played to the end of the game on a broken leg.
Yeah, and we regard these people as heroes, and we regard them and we give them accolades for what they do because they defy their physical limits.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. That like I said, that's an interesting Eve Ensler. That's the kind of Eve Ensler that I'd actually be interested in, a woman who wants to strive past her limits.
Agreed.
And actually, defines herself by something other than her fucking vagina.
Yeah, but no, but she chose the easy way out, and she chose to not transcend her physical limitations, but she chose to focus entirely on them and embody them.
Yeah, she chose to become a substrate upon which other people, and by other people I mean men, because she doesn't really regard women as people, so as a substrate upon which men write their stories upon. I mean, this is the difference. You can either define yourself by how people have acted upon you, the way Eve does, or you can define yourself by how you've overcome adversity and how you've been acted upon. Like, I assume healthy people do who achieve.
Yeah.
There you go.
Agreed. Sorry, I'm just listening to my dog freaking hacking up a lung here.
Oh,
and I hope it's not coming across on the...
A little bit.
Oh my God.
It sounds like you're having fun with the pine cone.
That's beautiful, dog. I'm so happy you spit that up on the floor. That's gorgeous.
Okay. Well, maybe it's
Try to
maybe
transcend your body, dog.
yeah, or maybe she's just having a reaction to Eve.
Oh, I don't know. She's been coughing since mid-April, just like everybody in the house has been sneezing since mid-April. So
Must be like some sort of allergies. Transcend your physical limitations, dog.
exactly, transcend, dog. Also, don't look at me like that because you're not getting anything.
She wants food. All right.
All right, we're moving on.
Yeah.
For years, I actually only wore hats. It was a way of keeping my head attached.
Wait. Only wore hats?
As opposed to what?
Well, I mean, if she only wore hats, she was running around naked with a hat on?
Okay, no, I mean like she never left the house without a hat.
No. She says, for years, I actually only wore hats.
Okay, but that's just she only wore hats as opposed to.
She wrote this fucking speech beforehand, Karen.
Sometimes wearing hats and sometimes not. I'm willing to be charitable in this interpretation.
She wrote this speech beforehand, Karen.
I know.
Right? It's
Okay,
like 5 minutes before she got on the stage.
She's not the best at expressing herself, but
she's a poet. She's supposed to be the best at express. I guess that's the whole I'm not going to try to transcend my limitations thing.
Yeah.
I'm adequate. I'm not even adequate. I just exist in this space with you. That should be good enough.
Yeah, well, like, okay, so she wore hats. She chose every time she left the house to wear a hat to keep her head attached, apparently, because let's find out why.
Let's find out why.
Hating myself. I worried that I took my hat off, I wouldn't be here anymore.
What the fuck?
Let's enter the mind. Let's enter the mind of the psychosis. That's really funny because. Or do you want to say something?
You take off all your clothes, you're still there, right? Like honestly, you.
It's a metaphor, right? It's she's saying that her head existed, so therefore she put a hat on it. So it's sort of like, I guess, a beacon.
I don't know. I don't even think that she needed something external to pin her head down.
Yeah.
Right. So she defines herself not through her own sort of self.
Well, she's saying that this is a bad thing that she did. So fair enough. It's a bad thing that she.
But like, who does that? Who does that? Like even like you sort of have that really favorite piece of clothing you wear, like it's that jacket. When I was young, right, I had a tuxedo jacket with satin lapels, right, and I had this beautiful handmade pin that I'd bought in London that was essentially a Medusa's head, right, and I put it on the lapel of this tuxedo jacket, and that was my jacket. That was the thing that I wore when I needed to wear a jacket. Just a windbreaker or a raincoat or even a winter jacket, I would wear this tuxedo jacket, right? And it really felt like part of me, right? It was part of who I wanted to present myself, as to the rest of the world, right? But it wasn't like I thought that if I left the house without my tuxedo jacket on, with my little Medusa pin, right, that I would cease to be me.
I think I understand what she's trying to get at. She couldn't live within her body because of the discomfort that she had experienced before. But it's like it sounds like this is, and I've talked to guys and they said, men, and they said that this is something that they experience. So they aren't really in their bodies. They're just sort of almost separate from them. And then this is not a uniquely female experience.
Of course it is.
Fine. So she's talking about, feeling disassociated from her body. That's fine. And it is something that happens when, you endure trauma.
Well, what trauma has she talked about?
I don't know. Probably she was raped or touched or something. That seems to be the usual.
And at this point, she hasn't said anything about the trauma.
No, but she probably said it in another Oh, right. So she alludes to it, but the thing is that this is something that I've heard lots of men say. So it's not unique to women, and she presents this as a woman's experience. She's essentially going on stage and saying vulnerability, and this is women's experiences, which I guess helps men to just push that away, push it down, push it, and helps them to refocus on achievement as their definitional factors.
Well, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if, like, there was a middle ground where women were taught that maybe they should push some of that away and focus a little bit more on achievement?
Yeah, it would be nice. I think it would be a significant step forward. But we have women like Eve Ensler to remind us that we're just vaginas.
Yeah, no, just bring it in towards the center and have like a reasonable balance of acknowledging trauma and vulnerability.
Get the fuck over it.
So try to get over it, right? And move on. So.
All right. Well, I don't find these metaphors very convincing, but I think that's what she's getting at. She had to live in her head because her body was too dangerous to live in.
Ugh.
But also, don't forget, that's a woman's experience, not a man's.
Oh, I just froze on this, and this is like an atrocious.
No, actually, your previous thing that you froze on was even better. I was like looking at it, thinking, "My God, she looks like a villain in some sort of."
Yeah, no, she's like Dr. Evil or something. Like I said, she looks like the dude who was in charge of the vampire freaking gang in that Above the Arctic Circle vampire movie about
vampires.
About vampires in a town where there's no dawn for several months a year, right?
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, that, like, if I was going to be attacked by vampires, I'd want to have that happen at the equator. Yeah, or
at the Arctic Circle during the time when there is no.
Yeah, or like Edmonton in the summer, right?
Yeah, I guess those are two. Those are good times to be attacked by vampires, not in the middle of a TED Talk.
Yeah.
I actually had a therapist who once said to me, "Eve, you've been coming here for 2 years, and to be honest, it never occurred to me that you had a body."
What?
I'll
take things that never happened for 200, Alex Trebek. Seriously.
I'm just like, she had
a new therapist.
She had a therapist, one of many, I'm sure. I had a therapist. If you only had one, you'd say my therapist, right? If you've had like multiple therapists, you say I had a therapist once.
Yes, this is true.
I'm thinking that these therapists, they're not very
effective.
Yeah.
No. Okay, let's.
All this time I lived in the city because, to be honest, I was afraid of trees.
What? I guess she's not a lumbersexual.
Oh my God.
What's scary about trees?
I like nature, okay? And I've often made the quip, right? The problem with nature. Go away, dog, before I beat you. The problem with nature is that something's always biting you or stinging you or oozing mucus on you, right?
Or alternatively, spooging their freaking sperm into your face.
Yeah, into your face and making you sneeze your head off, right? I mean,
yeah.
There's issues with nature, but
we all have them, right? We all have those issues with nature.
I lived in a wilderness area for like 16, 17 years, right? In a very small town in the middle of nowhere, where you literally, if you left the house to drive your kids to school 10 minutes early because you had to stop and get, I don't know, cigarettes or something like that at the store on the way, right? That there were still bears on the sidewalk, right? Because they could tell, these bears knew that, oh, I still got another 5 minutes before I have to make myself scarce, right? Before the people let their kids out of their house to go walk to school. Right? Where you're in it's like noon and you're driving down a main street in the town and there's a fucking cougar just sitting right on the center line of the road. Just sitting there looking around, right? Right in the middle of town. Right? I have never had a problem with fucking trees. I've never had a problem with going hiking in the woods. I've never had a problem. You bring your big stick. Everybody gets a stick. You open the trunk at the end of the logging road. You're going to hike to the beach. You open the trunk and everybody has their stick. This is your bear stick, right? Bear attacks you. You beat it with a stick. If all else fails, you throw the dog in the bear's direction and everybody else runs, right? But like, there's no reason to be afraid of it. There's no reason to like be freaked out by it. It's just nature.
Yeah, I'm still trying to parse the afraid of trees thing. I mean, trees aren't going anywhere, Eve. I mean, unless it's a storm and there's a really high wind and they fall over.
Or it's like an ant or something like that.
Yeah, but ants don't exist.
Well,
at least we don't know that they exist or not.
Except they do in the movies, and that obviously, like, I don't.
Well, you're right. We are dealing with a reality in which she apparently looks like a science fiction villain. So maybe there are ants. Maybe she's afraid of the ants.
I don't know, but like, honestly,
the ants are gonna come.
She just like to be afraid of trees. Like,
what? Yeah, they don't go anywhere, Eve.
Well,
they
and
just sort of sit there.
I can guarantee you, she's not afraid of a branch falling on her car. She's not afraid of a tree toppling over in the wind onto her house.
I'm going to see if there's actually tree phobia.
She's just afraid of nature.
Okay, phobia of trees. Searching Yahoo, not Google this time. Oh, there is a dendrophobia.
Oh, I'm sure there's a phobia of trees. But it's not based in any kind of substantive.
Okay, dendrophobia information. Dendrophobia is a fear of trees. The origin of the word dendro is Greek, meaning tree, and phobia is Greek, meaning fear. Dendrophobia is considered to be a specific phobia, which is discussed on the homepage. Dendrophobia is related to hylophobia, fear of forests. Well, okay, that is a reasonable fear.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because forests are fucking scary. But I think it's a reasonable fear because people die in forests. They don't.
I wouldn't call a forest scary. I would call it a force of nature, right? So you have to be aware and you have to be knowledgeable and you have to be able to take care of yourself. But if you have all of that, there's no reason to be afraid of a forest.
Mm-hmm. And also nyctohylophobia, fear of dark wooded areas of forests at night. Okay, yeah, that's understandable. Yeah. And xylophobia, fear of wooden objects and or forests. Okay.
Wooden objects like pianos? What?
Well, I guess like spoons? Like wooden spoons? Like, those...
Oh, after growing up with my mom, I could totally see having a fear of that.
Okay, but all right, so she has a fear of trees. How did she get this fear of trees?
I don't know.
Do you think she really has a fear of trees, or is this just she being a sort of a dork?
I have no idea.
Okay, so what are the causes of dendrophobia? It's generally accepted that phobias arise from a combination of external events, i.e., traumatic events, and internal predispositions. I think we're dealing with a predisposition here. Many specific phobias can be traced back to a specific triggering event, usually a traumatic experience at an early age. Was she raped by a tree?
I don't even know. Also, I have the hiccups, so pardon me in advance.
Your dog did it, didn't it?
No, it was these ribs. I was eating some ribs while you were talking.
How many people are going to complain that you're eating on air?
Oh, whatever. I have to eat, and this is when I have time to eat.
Yeah. Okay. Social phobias and agoraphobia have more complex causes that are not entirely known at this time. All right. Okay. So, essentially, she had an incredibly traumatic experience with a tree.
Okay.
Do you really believe that?
No.
No.
I can't imagine that she was much of a tree climber as a kid or anything like that. Just given who she is now, I can't imagine that she would have been a knee scraper and a tree climber and had maybe fallen out of a tree. And honestly, when you're a kid and you fall out of a tree, it doesn't, unless if the response is normal, right? If the response is reasonable and normal, which is you need to be more careful next time, right? Then you don't develop a fear of trees. You just develop a little bit more caution as to how you approach doing things like climbing trees.
I don't mean to insult people with a legitimate fear of trees, but I think she's co-opting your phobia here.
I think she's co-opting a lot of things.
Yeah. Okay, let's
Had babies because heads cannot give birth.
What? Okay, I have to move this back a second here.
You gotta figure what the hell that was.
I never had babies because heads cannot give birth.
Oh, you stupid bint. I'm sorry. Heads can totally give birth because sexuality for women is all in the head, and then what you do with your sexuality, you know, your body just kind of obeys. So
I hear you dealing with your
letting
dog.
my idiot dog out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you know the other thing that people are going to complain about? Animal abuse.
Sorry?
Animal abuse. They're going to say you call your dog an idiot
She's
you're abusing her.
mom. Like, just one second.
Jesus Christ. Okay, well, I think what she's saying is she's trying to say, you know, like sympathize with her because she reduced herself down to a head, which meant she couldn't actually do things that other people could do.
I know, she could only think things.
Yeah, she can only think things and wear hats to keep her head and know that she existed.
Like, I don't...
Is this sort of like the uniform, you know, like men put on and they only really exist if they're useful, so they have to wear a uniform, and once they take it off, they don't exist anymore?
No, because I think even those men understand that they still exist.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's sometimes, and we're not even to the really, really, really great crazy here. We're just getting there.
Like, all of this just seems like a mentally ill person.
Yeah, so maybe it's not her. Actually, no, it is her. It is her, and we will get to that, why it is her. But maybe it's the people that don't, like, say, you know, Eve, it's time to go home.
It's essentially, it's like, you know what, Eve, you're crazy.
Yeah, but if you've listened to her other speeches at TedWomen and TEDx, I think she did TEDx. I know she did TedWomen. Yeah. And those speeches are totally self-serving, but at least coherent and talk about specific stuff. This particular speech, and right now we're at the shallows of this speech because it definitely goes deep. It's like, why this one? This is the most incoherent of all of the things she's ever said.
You know what gets me about this whole thing about how she felt she was a head with no body. If she'd ever actually really been hurt, like had a broken bone or, you know, or like lost a 4 square inch patch of skin off her knee or something like that.
Well, she did have cancer, so I assume that she does know the experience of pain.
But she's talking about her childhood. She's talking about her youth.
Okay,
right?
Go ahead.
If she'd ever had those experiences as a young person, she would have no doubt as to the fact that she is, like, that part of her is her body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sort of speak to a very insular sort of situation. I mean, it's almost like a situation where you can actually do that. You can actually just live in your head. Well, a lot of people can't do that for the simple fact that their bodies are a constant source.
Or maybe
keeping themselves alive is a constant issue.
Maybe her parents were didn't let her experience her body the way she wanted to. Maybe they didn't let her skin her knee. Maybe they didn't let her climb trees. Maybe they didn't let her, you know, maybe the reason she's scared of trees is because her parents were like, trees are dangerous. You can't climb that. Like,
it's enough to speculate. Let's get to the juicier bits.
Babies actually don't come out of your mouth.
Baby's
no reference point for my body, I began to ask other women about their bodies, in particular their vaginas. But vaginas were kind of important.
Mm.
Yes, here we go.
Vaginas are important. They actually really are important, but they're not the most important thing about a woman.
This led to me writing the Vagina monologues, which
Okay.
obsessively.
All right. Okay. And now here's where we get really dark.
Mm.
No. Actually, just keep going, because this is
Incessantly talking about vaginas everywhere I could.
okay. All right. Could you imagine the reverse?
I know. I'm going to talk about my penis to everyone and anyone.
Yeah, I get been to ask other men about their bodies, in particular their penises, because I thought penises were kind of important. This led me to writing the penis monologues, which led me to obsessively and incessantly talking about penises everywhere I could.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's interesting is when I went to therapy, one of the therapists said that this is an effect of being sexually abused, this kind of sexualization of everything, right? But she's essentially pushing it on everyone around her. Yeah. Oops, sorry, I got a phone. It's like,
uh-oh, we can't hear you, Allison.
sorry, I have to deal with the phone. Sorry about that. She is okay, just as
oh, dear.
I'm sorry about this, guys.
Could be sorry, Allison.
Yeah, I know, you and your dog, me and my phone. So where was I going with this? Obsessively and incessantly talking about vaginas everywhere I could. Yeah, because this is like you're forcing your sexuality on people around you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you're doing it verbally, but could you imagine all of the uncomfortable conversations?
Oh, no. Honestly,
you're having coffee with this woman, and she's like leans closer, and she says, "So what about your vagina?" And you're like, ah.
Okay, well, you know, like I had at one time I had a stepson. He's passed away. But he was always kind of a pain in the ass, right? And he was like that swarm of gnats that you couldn't make him go away, right? And he'd just be like sort of could never sit still, and he'd be up pacing around the living room like a swarm of gnats in your peripheral vision, and he'd be like, just go away, just don't go away mad, just go away. And he was just such a sweetie, right? And he was always so really, really interested anytime I had another adult over in the house, right? So I would have my friend Kelly over for coffee, and we would be talking, and he would really want to be in on the conversation. This is like a 12, 13-year-old boy at the time. And the way we would get him to like just kind of go do something else, right? Like all the other kids in the house, because we had 5 other kids in the house, or 4 other kids in the house at the time, just to go somewhere else and find something to do, was we would start talking about our vaginas. And you didn't even have to tell him to go away. He would just go. He would just be like, I'm out of here, right? And like I can't imagine making it a topic of.
Well, apparently she approaches strangers in the street. Just could you imagine that? I mean, just coffee is one thing. I mean, because at some point in coffee, you actually took yourself out to go do something with this woman, so you're a little culpable there.
I mean, but at the same time, you know, like we talked about our vaginas up until the purpose had been served, and then the moment my stepson went downstairs to play video games or went outside to play at the playground, right? Then we were like talking about other things, like we use talk about vaginas to essentially repel other people. So
yes, and that's generally what it does, I think. Yeah. So I mean, because nobody really wants to know. I don't even think men really want to know. Like, no. Yeah, it's like, yeah, vagina as a topic of conversation should come out when the vagina comes out, or it shouldn't even be a topic of conversation. It's just there. Oh, and it does its role.
I think talk between men, right? between men in the company of only men, that kind of talk sometimes is, you know, oh yeah, no, the blah blah blah, like talk about women's bodies, right? That can be a comfortable thing when it's heterosexual men sharing their thoughts and opinions with other heterosexual men, right? But once the conversation comes up in between men and women, or just sort of in a non-sexual context, but just in a, this is my body, this is my vagina is one with the universe, blah blah, that just freaks everybody.
But this is okay. Again, I need to bring it back. So, I mean, when you're going out to coffee with Eve Ensler, you sort of know what's going to happen. I mean, you're culpable to that. You agreed to it. You know that the vagina is going to come out. It's just going to get plopped on the table, like some fucking thing out of Aliens. But if you're just walking down the street and this crazy woman with a shaved head comes up to you and says vagina, like, seriously, that's crazy homeless person thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I know people are like, you're gonna be ableist. No, it's why did we ever like get rid of mental institutions and turn people who had obvious problems that couldn't handle society onto the streets, sort of situation?
Yeah.
And in this case, we've solved the problem by letting them talk at TED.
Yeah, no, and producing their plays, and giving them, you know, a huge international platform, and allowing them to consult with various NGOs and other organizations, and all of that, right? So
it just is defeating.
It's just very, like, she's such a strange woman.
Well, this is not even just strange. Like, I mean, let's keep going, because we're going to get into the not just strange, but pedo bear creepy.
Actually entered my vagina.
Oh, God! I hope she means metaphorically. Seriously?
This is like a someone who was an adult when they actually discovered sexual self-pleasure.
No, but she discovered. No, but read. Let's. The crazy has to be properly clarified or quantified. All right. Okay. So. Okay. All right. Wait. We're missing stuff here. This transcript is incorrect. Oh no, it's right here. The vagina monologue. So led me to obsessively and incessantly talking about vaginas everywhere I could. I did this in front of many strangers. One night on stage, I actually entered my vagina. I think is she being literal?
No.
Or is this a metaphor? No, but you can't tell, Karen, really, with Eve. You cannot. She might have literally entered her vagina on stage in front of strangers. But of course, she's not a porn actress.
No.
It was an ecstatic experience. It scared me, it energized me, and then I became a driven... Oh, okay. So we don't actually know if this is literal or figurative. She could have literally entered her vagina on... I wonder if they were... The people who were watching her that night, did they give informed consent to this particular escapade?
You know, honestly, I think she's speaking metaphorically. I think she's speaking that, like, she embraced her... the quintessential femaleness, right? I think she's probably been, and you sort of see this with women who tend to, like, present with the shaved head and the, you know, or whatever, the, like, the Judith Butlers of the world, right? Like, they're somewhat, either they are embracing the masculine, like Judith Butler does, to a degree, or they're rejecting the feminine, right? And I think that if you had been sexually abused or something as a child, you would maybe be in a position where you were rejecting the parts of your body that make you female, the parts of your body that are responsible for the trauma, right? And So maybe on this stage, in this kind of transcendent experience, she comes to terms with the fact that she has a vagina and her vagina is okay, but then she takes it a step too far and makes it her life's mission to sort of beatify the vagina.
Well, or maybe she just has her head so far up her vagina.
I don't know, but like
She's subsisting on her own secretions.
There's some serious fucking pathology going on.
Okay, all right. Well, the one thing I'd like to point out here in all of this is that she's having these moments of transcendence or whatever on stage in front of people. She's having them with other people.
Yeah.
Like, as being paid attention to, is no doubt she's bringing up her genitals in casual conversations. No doubt she just plops it out on the table, and if people respond badly, it's because patriarchy makes us ashamed of our genitals. Yeah. No, it's because nobody wants to have their genitals, someone else's genitals shoved in their face.
Yeah.
It's like that is actually a form of abusing people, Eve. It's like that's a form of sexual abuse, is exposure when somebody else doesn't want to be exposed to your genitals. And it's like, so, but the thing is that what I was getting at is that she's having these experiences with other people, getting attention from other people. I'm sure that's really why she brings up vaginas, is because it'll get attention. She'll force people into emotional reactions towards her, and they'll start to respond to her. She does that. And she has these experiences when she gets attention. I mean, in my experience, my personal experience, most of my understanding of myself has come in quiet, alone, outside of the purview of other people.
Yeah.
It's like it's something that you get when you're in self-reflection, not exposing yourself to other people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means anything, but
shall we
continue?
There's a certain narcissism going on here, right?
Yeah, it's like she doesn't exist. Eve, I think you don't exist unless you're being paid attention to.
Well, no, I think that if you look at her dichotomy, head versus body, or head versus vagina, I think she's discovered that she gets a lot more attention through her vagina than through her head.
Yes.
So
I thought we were trying to get away from that.
Well, it's just really sad.
Okay, you know what? We've only gone through like 1:50, and we're almost at the hour, so we have almost another 10 minutes to go. So I think we better let's just do this thing. Let's do it.
Like, do it.
Do it.
Was an ecstatic experience. It scared me, it energized me, and then I became a driven person, a driven vagina.
Oh! How is a vagina a person? This really harkens back to, are the vaginas in the house? Any vagina-friendly men in the house? Referring to women as vaginas and men as persons. Like a woman cannot be, like, she can't be anything other, like the vagina. The vagina is the center of her personality. It is all she is. It is the be all and end all of womanhood, is the vagina. And like her character has nothing to do with it. Her qualities have nothing to do with it. Any empathy that she has for other human beings, that all comes from her vagina. It's not a human quality. It's a vaginal quality. Like, what the fuck?
I don't even think that she's referring to empathy coming from okay, all right, projection here. This is complete and utter objectification of women. Like, this is not men. Feminists will say, oh, men reduce women down to sex objects, which is bullshit. Men do not reduce women down to sex objects. They reduce them down to sex subjects with desire for them.
Yeah.
Men want women's desire as a subject, as a person who feels and experiences a feeling. They don't want a fucking inert body. That's really totally an outlier. And yet this feminist is reducing women down to their genitals.
Yes.
And then she probably turns around and blames men.
Of course she does.
For reducing women. And no, she does, I think even in this lecture she does. Or she implies it. That men reduce women down to their genitals. And they remove the person of, well, you're doing exactly that, Eve. Let's just say you, okay, I don't know exactly what happened to you. I haven't researched your story that far. But let's say you were raped by an elder male when you were a child. And he reduced you down to your genitals. He didn't care about your consent. He didn't care about your emotional well-being. You're doing the same to women now.
Yep.
And you're, what?
She's doing the same to herself.
Yeah, you're doing the same to yourself. Like it's, feels more like an abused child who really needs help.
Mm-hmm.
Not adulation for acting like a lunatic.
Yeah.
Somebody should stop this and say, you know what, Eve? You're perpetuating the very thing that you say you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're conscious. Maybe this is a conscious calculation. Maybe this is conscious calculation on her part. She doesn't give a shit. She does want to hurt people. Maybe she's in that place where she hates everybody because they either failed to stop her from being hurt or they hurt her. So she just hates everyone. And she just wants to hurt them. So she's bullshit. He's spewing this hateful, harmful bullshit all over everyone. Oh, let's continue.
All right.
Time.
I began to see my body like a thing that could move fast, like a thing that could accomplish other things, many things all at once. I began to see my body like an iPad or a car.
All right, this is fucking weird.
So you began to see your body as a tool for expressing your personhood. Well, Eve, that's really unhealthy. Just like, where can you go from there, Eve? That's just the bottom of the barrel. You think of your body as a tool of expressing your personality and your agency. Oh my God, that's so unhealthy.
Well, no, but here's the thing, right? Like, if I was going to think of my body as, sort of the vehicle of my will, right? Which it is. I wouldn't compare it to an iPad or a car. It's like it's my car is separate from me. My iPad is separate from me. My body is not separate from me. My body is an intrinsic part of me. Right? So I wouldn't consider it something separate, like a tool. I would consider it the hand that wields the tool. I would consider it, the legs that carry me from place to place. I would not consider it the shoes that, that I wear when I go from place to place. I would consider it to be the feet that carry me from place to place. Right? Like there's a really fucking bizarre disconnect between this woman and her body. She does not love her body. Her body is alien to her. She does not think that her body belongs to her. She doesn't part of herself.
So like there's almost like a dichotomy. She can't seem to make the connection, so she has to reduce everything down to the vagina. So you can't have a person with a vagina. You either have to have a vagina or a person. Never the twain shall meet.
It seems like that, or that the only way she can relate to her body is through her.
But nothing that she says indicates any kind of emotional wholeness. Why is she speaking at a TED Talk?
I don't fucking know.
Like, what is this? Why is this the pinnacle? Like, this is what people think it means to be feminine. Is no quiet wisdom, no effective presence, just someone who's so harmed by what happened to them that they can never get past it, can never even connect their body to their soul. Okay, we gotta get through this.
Okay.
Drive it and demand things from it. It had no limits. It was invincible.
That's bullshit.
To be conquered and mastered like the earth herself.
What? Okay, so what you're saying now? You're dividing it even more weirdly. You're not just a vagina. You're also the exploiter. Is that all that exists? Is a vagina and a rapist? Your cosmology? Oh, this is getting really dark.
Let me just replay it.
It was to be conquered and mastered like the earth herself.
Okay, so she has to conquer and master her body the way, people conquer and master the earth, because that way it's the tool that she's just fucked up. I'm sorry. There's no way that I can't say that this woman is fucked up. Or
isn't fucked up. There's a false dichotomy that she's presenting here. There's a false dichotomy. And that false dichotomy is that people are either rapists, men, like personhood is male, and victimhood is female. So women are vaginas, men are rapists. This is her cosmology. But
here's the thing. This last little bit, she's saying essentially that she decided she was going to treat her body as a tool to use and a thing to be conquered. Right? For her own will. So she's got this separation of her will and her body. Like her body does not actually belong to her. It's she's possessing somebody else's body. And she's
oh my God.
Co-opting it for her.
Maybe she is.
Right?
She's like an alien parasite, an alien brain parasite.
Like this is what it sounds like to me, that she's viewing her own body as if it doesn't belong to her, and she is unjustly co-opting it for her own purposes. That's like let me just back it up. Like here like
invincible. It was to be conquered and mastered like the earth herself.
Right? Like her body, she saw it as limitless and invincible, and it was to be conquered and mastered like the earth itself. Right? She is portraying herself as a tyrant who is co-opting a body that she doesn't see as belonging to her, right? As part of herself. It's something separate from her, and she's co-opting it to suit her purposes and to perform her will. Like this is like the most bizarre fucking thing I have ever seen. Like this is like in freaking Dr. Strangelove with the dude, he had the disembodied hand syndrome, right? She doesn't just have disembodied hands, she has a disembodied body.
Yes. But it's the thing is there's a dichotomy here. She has removed personhood from the equation of womanhood. Womanhood is just a body. And then they say men do this. They say that men reduce women down to objects, to just bodies. This is what she's doing. She's saying that her as a person is a violation of her woman's body.
Well, one of the interesting things that I think about that is that a body is a person. A body is a person, right? Like your brain is
hard to separate the two.
Your brain is part of your body. Your feelings and your emotions and everything that you think and all of your memories, all of that, they're all stored in your body. You know, your body is a person.
Well, she has some sort of feminist mind-body dichotomy going, except it's more like vagina rapist dichotomy.
Yeah,
and she apparently thinks that because she compels her body to do stuff, she must be a rapist.
Yeah,
that's a really hard cross to bear, don't you think, Karen?
She's raping her own body.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting. She is raping her own body. Okay, I'm not sure what kind of weird nihilism is the end result of all of this shit. Okay, let's go.
Organized it and I directed it. I didn't have patience for my body. I snapped it into shape. I was greedy. I took more than my body had to offer. If I was tired, I drank more espressos. If I was afraid, I went to more dangerous places. Oh, sure. I had moments of appreciation of my body, the way an abusive parent can sometimes have a moment of kindness.
Oh my God. I can't believe I was that accurate.
Yeah, no.
She really is making the animating spirit of her body to be raping her body. What do you want, Eve? What's the end? What is the end game of this? Do you want to leave your body, or is that going to be your moment of final contentment when your spirit leaves your body? If that happens as a husk, And then you'll be like, oh, finally I've stopped raping that by existing within it.
She's
just
fucking nut. Oh
yeah.
my.
Why is this woman speaking at TED Talks?
Birthday, for example. I heard people murmur from time to time that I should love my body. So I learned how to do this. I was a vegetarian, I was sober, I didn't smoke, but all that was just a more sophisticated way to manipulate my body, a further disassociation like.
Oh, here we go with the feminist. Even showing care is exploitation.
Okay, all right, but what's really creepy is that she's essentially saying her existence as a person is patriarchal. Because I don't know how you would not, like, Eve, how would you not be exploiting your body?
Her existence as a person is exploitative. Yes.
Yeah, your existence.
Not of others, not of the environment, not of the earth, but of her own body.
This is serious mental illness.
It's really not okay.
Yeah, this is not somebody who anybody should be looking to for wisdom. Because she literally has this schism between, she can't acknowledge her personhood. If acknowledging her personhood would make her would be identifying with a rapist or something. If she acknowledged that she has the right to inhabit her body and demand things of it and maybe drink too many espressos and eat vegetarian food, like, these are not things that are rape.
Well, they're not even things that are exploitation. I mean, like, honestly, when I was driving back from BC, I had a 22-hour drive, all in one straight run from Port McNeill to Edmonton. 22, and I abused coffee and I abused cigarettes for that, because I had to push myself to get the entire way, 22 hours of driving straight, right? But that it's your body and your choice about your body. It's my body, it's my choice, right? And I know that any abuse that I heap on my body, I will have to reap the rewards from that or the penalties, right? And any things that I do to make my body more healthy, those are things that I will benefit from, right? So essentially, because and I don't have, there's no conflict there. There's no conflict when I decide to put my body through something punishing, right? There's no conflict because my body is me.
That's heresy, Karen. You are actually this devil spirit inside your body, raping it by forcing it to do things.
Apparently. It's the most weird thing. This is the most surreal fucking thing I think I've ever fucking witnessed.
Yeah, it gets more surreal the more you think about it, doesn't it?
Like, honestly, like, if I'd sat and just listened to this, like, through one big thing, it actually, being able to pause it every, time she says something really fucked up and then sort of analyze what it was she might mean by that actually really makes the crazy come through.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. The other thing is that when you first listen to this, you don't get the full enormity of the crazy. You just don't. It just sort of slides into your subconscious somehow. This kind of destructive, disturbing attitude to oneself is what she is trying. And this is the message to women: is that your personhood, your agency, your ability to make your body move and do things is the enemy, is patriarchy. You need to abdicate that. What's the end result of that? Women who can't do a damn thing.
Yeah.
They have no functional ability to do anything or conceive of doing anything unless just
they can feel things and they can complain.
Yeah, that's it. That you're just essentially a puddle of clay. That's it. And the only worth that you have is what's etched on you as clay. All right, we got to get through this.
Okay.
Planting a vegetable field on a freeway. As a result of me talking so much about my vagina.
Okay, wait, why is that funny? Why is that funny?
Okay, let me just go back.
On a freeway.
Oh.
No. I got the transcript here. Okay.
Further disassociation, like planting a vegetable field on a freeway.
Okay.
Why is that? You know what? Let's just keep going.
As a result of me talking so much about my vagina, many women started to tell me about theirs, their stories, about their bodies. Actually, these stories compelled me around the world, and I've been to over 60 countries. I heard thousands of stories, and I have to tell you, there was always this moment where the woman shared with me that particular moment when she separated from her body, when she left home.
Okay, wait. And again, this is just women, right? This never happens to men. That's what she's presenting it as. This is a situation that never happens to men. They never separate from their body because of trauma. Okay, keep going.
About women being molested in their beds, flogged in their burqas, left for dead in parking lots, acid burned in their kitchens. Some women became quiet and disappeared. Other women became mad-driven machines like me. In the middle of my childhood.
This is a choice. Women are entirely defined by their trauma. Like I said, she's just saying women are a pile of clay and they only exist in how they're written upon by real people, which are men. This is some disturbing fucking shit. Like this is I don't know how this became about women's liberation or women's empowerment, because this is the exact bloody opposite. She's telling women that they should suspect the personhood inhabiting their own bodies as being somehow an inheritance of rape, somehow rapey, or an inheritance of patriarchy, or an expression of rape of the rapist who violated them. And then, so leaving them with what? A complete and utter identification of helplessness, of the corpse, of being just a corpse. It's like, fuck, Eve, whatever you think men do to women, you're doing it 100 times worse.
Yeah.
And it gets worse. Like this, now I'm going to get pissed in about a few sentences.
Okay.
I can sense it.
40, and I began to hate my body, which was actually progress, because at least my body existed enough to hate it.
Oh my God. Okay, moving on.
No, what a martyr. What a martyr, eh?
Yeah. Stomach. It was my stomach I hated. It was proof that I had not measured up, that I was old and not fabulous and not perfect, or able to fit into the predetermined corporate image and shape.
Measured up to who?
Oh, well, to the fashion industry, to the...
Yeah, but it's your decision to decide to measure yourself up against that, Eve. Oh, wait, that's right. Agency is something that's raping you.
Yeah.
Your own agency is raping your body, so you can't admit to the fact that you are making the decision to take that upon yourself.
Well, I can understand. I can totally understand being dissatisfied with your body. I can totally understand with, like, because I always... like my perfect female body, the female body that I would have really loved to have been able to embody, would have been the body of an Olympic gymnast, right? Like muscular buttocks, almost no boobs, compact, muscular, very, very agile, right? All of that. That I would kill for a body like that. Right? And not because it's sexual in any way, just because that just seems to me to be the most efficient body for the things that I've always sort of really wanted to do, right? Which is just be able to move around and lift things and jump places and do all of those, be active and all of that, right? And there's no way in hell that I would ever be able to get my body to be like that. Like, no way in hell. I inherited a body that is not my ideal body. Okay, so you make do with the body you have, right? And the body you have is not bad, right?
Yeah.
The body you have is pretty okay. It gets you from here to there. It's serviceable. It does what it needs to do, and even if it has problems like asthma or allergies or whatever, you can work around those things, and you can still make do, right? There's no reason to hate your body.
No, not unless you're trying to force it into to adhere to a standard. And I'm considering that she seems to have every one of her very deep emotional experiences about herself in front of other people.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that she's sort of prone to wanting to have the attention and the adulation of a particular body type. Well, that is on you, Eve.
I think she's just got a lot of narcissistic tendencies, like a lot.
Oh. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
She strikes me as somebody who, as a child, was probably raised in some sort of self-esteem boosting ethic type thing with her parents, very permissive, very, you're special, you're like totally special, blah blah blah, right? Which promotes narcissism, right? And then she had some kind of trauma, and she was unable to cope with it because she'd been sheltered from anything difficult up to that point.
Okay, let's listen to
my stomach was proof that I had failed, that it had failed me, that it was broken. My life became about getting rid of it and obsessing about getting rid of it. In fact, it became so extreme, I wrote a play about it. But the more I talked about it, the more objectified and fragmented my body became. It became entertainment. It became a new kind of commodity, something I was selling.
All right.
Unlike her vagina.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Yeah, Eve, if you're talking about your personhood and your body as being separate, you are going to end up fragmenting. What the hell do you think? What is it that you want women, because you are talking about women, and you're compelling women to do something here. What is it you want? For example, me. How am I supposed to approach my body? Am I supposed to see my body as being raped by my personhood because I ask it to do things it doesn't want to do? Well, but that is existence. You think that animals out in the woods want to have to run from predators? They want to have to eat disgusting food to purge themselves when they're sick? I mean, do you think that they want to do all of the difficult, dangerous, and painful things that they do to survive?
Yeah.
No. But they're not raping themselves when they force their bodies into survival. Like, how does she want women to approach their bodies?
Yeah, I know. It's like, I don't have the right to ask anything of my body.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have the right to ask what are you going to do? What are you going to end up in the end of the day? You're going to be like an amorphous blob of protoplasm?
I think I'm going to have a nap, actually, because my body is like really kind of jonesing for one.
Yeah. Nap? You're not energized by this? Okay.
Yeah, well, as long as I suppose I shouldn't actually make the condition that, as long as I'm not behind the wheel, because, like, frankly, I should be able to nap behind the wheel too. Otherwise, I'm raping my body.
Where else? I went outside what I thought I knew. I went to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I heard stories that shattered all the other stories. I heard stories that got inside my body. I heard about a little girl who couldn't stop peeing on herself because so many grown soldiers had shoved themselves inside her. I heard an 80-year-old woman whose legs were broken and pulled out of her sockets and twisted up on her head as the soldiers raped her like that. There were thousands of these stories, and many of the women had holes in their bodies, holes, fistula, that were the violation of war, holes in the fabric of their souls.
So unlike the bullet holes that were killing so many men.
But Eve, you just got done telling us that the head, the soul, is not the body. So how can injury to the body be an injury to the soul?
Okay, but here's the interesting. Let's bring in. I might end up starting to rant at this point. Okay. Let's bring in some actual statistics from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the problems that are happening there. There are a comparable number of men who are being sexually violated. I'm not even talking about physically. I'm talking just sexually. There are comparable numbers of men who are being sexually violated, and boys let's not forget the boys.
Yeah.
This is completely erased by Eve's narrative. So she's standing up there pontificating about the rape victims that she cares about.
Yeah.
She's already made her calculus. I don't care about these other rape victims. But she expects us to decide to care in the same way that she cares. And that is totally morally bankrupt.
Yeah.
You can't just decide that one group of victims are acceptable victims. Those are the victims that we care about. And these other group of victims, well, they can go to hell. We don't care about them. So when you listen to these stories, these dramatic stories, and recognize that she's choosing only specific types of victims, because the other victims she doesn't give a shit about. And it's not even half of the victims that she doesn't give a shit about. She actually doesn't give a shit about 3/4 of the victims. And I'm going to explain why she doesn't give a shit about 3/4 of the victims. Because when you look at the statistics out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, those people who responded that they had been raped, 40% of the women said they were raped by other women, and 10% of the men said they were raped by women. So 10%, or all of the male rape victims, she doesn't care about. She doesn't give a shit about. And I'm talking, these guys, some of them, there's one man who was raped, or actually multiple, raped so many times that he has to wear Kotex
Diapers for the rest of his life, yeah.
for the rest of his life to capture the blood, pus, and feces coming out of his ass. She doesn't care about that. That's irrelevant to her. There are other men
what's also irrelevant to her is the fact that if he actually came out and reported to the authorities that he'd been treated that way, he would be arrested for a crime.
Being sodomized.
He participated in homosexual acts.
And he would be left by his wife for being less than manly. So she doesn't care about, I don't know, a man or many men over there who have anal incontinence from being raped so much. And also, there are other things that you can do to men sexually that are horrifying.
Like
you can force them to fuck things that are acidic. So that they get fourth degree burns, third degree burns all over their genitals. You can cut their genitals off. And in some cases, sometimes they cut them off and then choke them to death with it and let them bleed. Shove them down their throat and let them bleed to death. These are things that happen to men, Eve, that you don't put into your stories. And you know what's really interesting is if you listen to the anecdotes coming out of the Congo, these men talking about how they were raped and violated, and not just by other men, also by women. Because women can just as easily castrate men or force them to have sex with acidic sap. The crazy shit that comes out of there. These men, if you listen to their stories, a lot of them end with, and then they cut my head open with a machete and left me for dead.
Yeah.
Not the women's stories, the men's stories end with that. But I survived by some miracle. I was thrown in a ditch, in dirt, with my head cut open, but I survived. That's what the men's stories ends with. So when you look at the statistics, the men who say, yes, I was sexually violated, those are the ones who usually survived also being killed or attempted murder.
Yeah.
So if you see a discrepancy between the men who say they're sexually violated and the women, it's usually because they kill the men too.
I was actually
this is all of this, sorry Karen, all of this she chooses to ignore, to all this mountain of suffering. She shoves her fucking hands into and finds the gems that she wants to put on herself and wear.
Yeah.
As one of the most privileged people on the fucking planet. She only chooses a certain types that peel to her, that sparkle in just the right way so she can wear them on a fucking TEDx goddamn fucking stage and advocate things will do nothing to change a damn fucking thing about the situation. And yeah, once you start deciding which victims you care about, you lose all the moral high ground, Eve. All of it.
One of the things that I found really interesting about the Congo is I was reading an interview with some men who oh wait, no, it was with a woman who was taken by militants, and she was horrifically sexually abused by the women in the group. And it was the men in the group of militants who, when the women who they abused her for a week or so and then they were going to put her to death, the men stepped in and said, "We think you should let her go."
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just like coming off of that rant.
I know. It's so much more complicated than she would like everybody to think. Women sexually abuse men and other women. Men often don't come up in these surveys of, have you ever been raped? You're Congolese. Have you ever been raped? Yeah. Well, you know what? Or sexually violated or sexually assaulted in some way. Oh, a lot of the men who were subjected to that are now dead. They had their testicles cut off and then they were thrown down a well. How is that not being sexually violated?
Yeah. Well, of course. But the thing is that we only want to look at the sexual violation that plays well on a TEDx stage or a TED Talk stage. And that kind of sexual violation doesn't play well. It doesn't enhance Eve's status. So that's the funny thing, is that she is doing exactly what she derides. I think in the next paragraph, she derides us, the rest of the world, for doing. She is going into these countries and mining them for the misery she can use to enhance her status. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, she'll criticize them for doing nothing about these women. And it's, like, honestly, so many of these women would be a fucking hell of a lot better off if their men were still alive.
Yeah, and that's of course irrelevant.
Stories saturated my cells and nerves, and to be honest, I stopped sleeping for 3 years.
That's
3 years.
Fucking bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit.
There's actually a disorder. If you grow a lesion on a certain part of the brain, right, that disables your autonomic system when it comes to breathing. So whenever you can breathe consciously, but when you're not conscious of it, you're breathing subconsciously or extra consciously. It's so when you go to sleep, you continue breathing even though you're not conscious, right? Well, if you have a lesion on a certain part of your brain, you no longer have the ability. Your brain no longer has the ability to breathe for you when you're not conscious of it. And the people who have that problem, they die fairly quickly. And they don't die from asphyxiation. They don't die from suffocation. They die from lack of sleep.
All the stories began to bleed together. The raping of the earth, the pillaging of minerals, the destruction of vaginas.
Oh, God. As if that's like the destruction of the woman surrounding the vagina. That's incidental. The destruction of the vagina. That's where it's at, right, Eve? That's what we should care about.
No. It's because women are vaginas. So
yeah,
she's just associating the personhood of the woman with the.
Or is she just identifying what she finds valuable about them? I mean, if she could remove the woman entirely, maybe she would just prefer to have an entire field of vaginas on artificial life support, and that would be the perfect world for Eve.
That I guess, she's a lesbian, so.
Well, but also, like, it could sort of look like that, like a whole bunch of those hate face huggers.
It would look like in the Matrix.
Let's just that's the perfect world for Eve. Just a field upon field upon field of machines growing vaginas.
Like I just don't know how she can be taken seriously.
Militias were raping 6-month-old babies so that countries far away could get access to gold and coltan.
No. Militias were not doing that so that countries far away could get access to gold and magnesium and things like that. No, it was so that the people in charge of the militias could control the money that comes from other countries' access to those things.
And also the raping of the 6-month-old babies. When you have a militia that's almost like significantly comprised of child soldiers, mostly boys that you've stolen and raped, and then hopped up on drugs and forced to kill, and then when these kids grow up, they're a little fucked up.
Just a little,
and they do fucked up things. Just that's why. The raping of the 6-month has nothing to. It's a side effect of torturing child soldiers, or just the entire war is like a fucking. It's like a corruption. It's everybody goes nuts.
And this isn't like a normal war, right? Like in normal wars, there are rules. Even in the time of Julius Caesar, in the time of certain Roman conquests and stuff like that, there was the order given: there will be no sacking, there will be no rapine, there will be no, these are going to become our people, you will not abuse them, right? There will be no abuse of civilians. There are rules in warfare. There is the Geneva Convention. There are all kinds of rules as far as how you can treat civilians and even how you can treat enemy combatants, right? When it comes to these kinds of conflicts that go on, like in the Congo, where you have illegal militias that are supported by no government and are answerable to no one, that's when you see the kidnapping of children to become soldiers. That's when you see all of these horrific things happening, right? This is not standard for war. It's not standard warfare. It's very much the extreme.
Yep. All right, let's it is extreme. It's crazy.
My body had not only become a driven machine, but it was responsible now for destroying other women's bodies in its mad quest to make more machines to support the speed and efficiency of my machine.
Okay, other women's bodies, but men's bodies, that's okay. That's acceptable losses.
I'm gonna give her a certain amount of credit for saying that her consumerism helps to drive that shit over there. That's horrific, because it does, right? Our need for things helps to create the conditions where those kinds of things over there are able to happen.
Yeah, but actually our need for things drives the influx of currency into their economy. These individuals who choose to have militias who want to control that influx, they're the ones who are responsible for their choices. I'm sorry. I'm not going to make myself responsible for that.
No, I would agree. But there is sort of, I can give her some credit for saying that, if the West didn't need these things, these people probably would not be behaving this way, at least not over these things. So I can give her a little bit of credit as far as that goes. But it really does. Oh my fucking God.
Unplug it, woman. Unplug it.
Unplug it. Oh my God, it's my mother-in-law.
Okay, well, definitely unplug it then.
I threw the phone on the floor.
Oh my God. You put it in another room.
I don't have another. I'd have to unplug it and then
just unplug it. Like, she can call you later. Sounds like she's very insistent.
It's not her that's called me each time.
Oh, okay.
First it was my boyfriend, then it was someone from California, and then now it's my mother-in-law.
Probably someone from California wants to, I don't know, talk to you about fracking.
I don't know.
Whatever.
I don't even know, but...
Okay, we're only like halfway through, friend. We got to get through this.
Moving on.
Then I got cancer. Or I found out I had cancer. It arrived like a speeding bird smashing into a window pane. Suddenly, I had a body that was pricked and poked and punctured, a body that...
Wait. Maybe you were right. Maybe her body didn't exist for her because she never experienced any kind of level of pain in her childhood.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe if there was some pain to do with her body, because I'm thinking to separate yourself from your body like that, there has to be something, right? But that it would be so out of the ordinary, like, she was a sheltered little girl, and then like some dude in the movie theater like freaking felt her up or something. And that was what was like my body that I never really knew existed is now my betrayer, and now it's like separate from me. And
She never noticed her body when
it has a different set of interests than I do,
and I'm just some sort of alien entity occupying it, forcing it, raping it into doing shit. But she never noticed her body with like sexual pleasure at all. Never mind. But what's interesting is now that she has cancer, like if she goes from saying that she is responsible through her consumerism for the problems that these individuals face, which I disagree with. She's not responsible for that. She's responsible for perpetuating a approach to these problems that will do nothing but ensure their continuation. Like she's farming this suffering. Yeah. Because you cannot fill one half of a bucket. You got to look at the entire problem, including all of its victims. You just, unless you do, you're not going to be
all of its perpetrators. Yeah.
And all of its perpetrators, you're not going to understand the problem enough to fix it. So she's perpetuating it by promoting this way of looking at it that will never change it. Never. And it will ensure a steady supply of these horrific stories for her to then dig out of this mountain of misery and put on around her neck as trophies, grisly trophies that she'll then trot out at TED Talks. But in terms of her consumerism causing I don't agree with that analysis. But look how she turns when she gets cancer. She no longer even says that her consumerism is what's causing it. Continue.
Well, what got me was that the big smile that she had when she said, "And then I got cancer."
I had a body that was pricked, smashing into a window pane.
You have to go back further.
I had a body.
Yeah, I see let's just keep going though.
Cancer. It arrived like a speeding bird, smashing into a window pane. Suddenly, I had a body that was pricked and poked and punctured, a body that was cut wide open, a body that had organs removed and transferred and rearranged and reconstructed, a body that was scanned and had tubes shoved down it, a body that was burning from chemicals. Cancer exploded the wall of my disconnection. I suddenly understood that the crisis in my body was the crisis in the world, and it wasn't happening later.
No, it's not the crisis in the world. It's just
narcissist
fucking body.
Yeah, but you see how she did that? She went from being responsible for the crisis of the world to being the victim of the crisis in the world. You see, isn't that really clever? And she did that by completely identifying with her body and only her body, not her choices. You notice how many words she used for how she was acted upon?
She only identifies with her body when it has cancer.
Yeah, when it's just being acted upon.
Yeah.
That's not when she's doing stuff with it, but when other people are doing stuff with it. Oh, there you go. There's the rub. She's created this identity around being just being done to. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's how she exists. And it's also how she abdicates her moral responsibility too, if you notice. But let's continue.
It's happening now. Suddenly my cancer was a cancer that was everywhere. The cancer of cruelty, the cancer of greed, the cancer that gets inside people who live downstream from chemicals.
It's narcissistic, isn't it? But here's the thing. This is when I talk on Ragening before with Mike, how these individuals, these women from possibly the most privileged class in all of human history. Yeah. They take the suffering of other people and they adorn themselves with it to increase their status. Yeah. So somehow their suffering becomes her suffering, even though Eve, if you died tomorrow, the people who are suffering around the world would still be suffering. Yeah. So it's not, your suffering is not their suffering.
You having to endure cancer is not solid. It's not you showing solidarity with rape victims in the Congo. Because if no one in the Congo was raped, you'd still have fucking cancer and you'd still have to deal with it because that's you. It's your body. It's you. right? It's not them. It has nothing to do with them.
But she's appropriated the victimhood of everyone around the world, including Mother Earth, to herself and appended it to herself. So she now controls all of the victim resources of all of society, all around the world.
She's
She has appointed herself the queen.
She's fetishizing these victims in the Congo. She's essentially saying they are a reflection of my suffering. Like, right? Like, what ego?
Yeah.
What fucking ego? Oh my God. Okay, moving on.
Plants, and they're usually poor. The cancer inside the coal miner's lungs. The cancer is stress for not achieving enough. The cancer of buried trauma. The cancer in caged chickens and polluted fish. The cancer in women's uteruses from being raped. The cancer that...
Well, you know, honestly, if she was going to talk about chickens and fish, I'm glad she actually thought to mention coal miners.
And the cancer in women's... I don't think that's how it works.
Oh, yeah. The cancer in women's uteruses from being raped. Like, no. Women don't get cancer from being raped. They get cancer. If they get cancer from being raped, it's because there was an HPV type 16 or 18 virus there. But other than that, rape is just a physical act that is physiologically no different in that regard from regular sex.
Okay, keep going.
It's everywhere from our carelessness. In his new and visionary book, New Self, New World, the writer Philip Shepard says, if you are divided from your body, you are also divided from the body of the world, which then appears to be other than you or separate from you, rather than the living continuum to which you belong.
You can be completely 100% in tune with your body and still not give a shit about people in the fucking Congo.
Well, it's difficult to parse this. Because she's established that it was negative for her to treat her body as an extension of her will. Well, let's just go on.
Before cancer, the world was something other. It was as if I was living in a stagnant pool and cancer dynamited the boulder that was separating me from the larger sea. Now I am swimming in it. Now I lay down in the grass and I rub my body in it, and I love the mud on my legs and feet. Now I make a daily pilgrimage to visit a particular weeping willow by the Seine. And I hunger for the green fields in the bush outside Bukavu. And when it rains, hard rain, I scream and I run in circles.
What? This is how you're connected with your body?
Yeah, I know. She's essentially going through childhood again.
I guess so. Well, I mean, if she didn't have one, good on her. Except I will point out that in the Vagina monologues... I actually forgot to mention this. Eve asked, how old was the girl? What does your vagina smell like? Remember that?
13, I think.
No, that was the good rape in the Vagina monologues.
I don't remember this one.
Okay, let's just continue. Then it's an irrelevancy. Let's move on.
Everything is connected. And the star that runs the length of my torso is the markings of the earthquake. And I am there with the 3 million in the streets of Port-au-Prince. And the fire that burned in me on day 3 through 6 of chemo is the fire that is burning in the forest of the world. I know that the abscess that grew around my wound after the operation, the 16 ounces of pus, is the contaminated Gulf of Mexico. And there were oil-drenched pelicans inside.
Oh my God.
Just keep going. Let's finish that one out.
Oh my God. Okay.
Me and dead floating fish. And the catheters they shoved into me without proper medication made me scream out the way the earth cries out from the drilling.
All right. I have to stop here. You mean drilling for oil that allows you to live your jet-setting lifestyle?
Yes.
Because
yeah, and also the oil that actually provided the petrochemicals that made the tubes that they stuck in her.
Without proper medication. I don't think anybody intended to do that to you, Eve.
Well, no, as they didn't. If she was infected, if she had like an abscess, there is no proper medication. I had a kid who had an abscessed tooth, Sam, my youngest Sam, when he was 4. He was 4. He had an abscessed tooth that had to be pulled out. He had antibiotics for it for 2 weeks. They didn't take care of the abscess. I took him in. They said, well, we'll have to just try, but the freezing will not take. So we will pull out his tooth without freezing, because that's what we have to do. And my 4-year-old sat white-knuckled in a dentist chair with tears streaming down into his temples, perfectly still, going, ow, 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 until his tooth was out. Because it didn't matter how much freezing they put in. Because it was infected, the freezing wouldn't take. If she is talking about catheters being put into her through an abscess to drain an abscess, there's no way to freeze that. There is no proper medication.
I gotcha.
Very sick. And I went to see her. And in the name of connectedness, the only thing she wanted before she died was to be brought home by her beloved Gulf of Mexico. So we brought her home, and I prayed that the oil wouldn't wash up on her beach before she died. And gratefully, it didn't. And she died quietly in her favorite place. And a few weeks later, I was in New Orleans, and this beautiful spiritual friend told me she wanted to do a healing for me, and I was honored. And I went to her house, and it was morning, and the morning New Orleans sun was filtering through the curtains. And my friend was preparing this big bowl, and I said, "What is it?" And she said,
You know what, Karen, let's just skip forward a bit. This is just woo.
No, I want to watch the woo.
Oh,
I need to witness the woo. We don't need to comment on it. The comments take way more time than the woo does.
"The flowers make it beautiful, and the honey makes it sweet." And I said, "But what's the water part?" And in the name of connectedness, she said, "Oh, it's the Gulf of Mexico." And I said, "Of course it is." And the other women arrived, and they sat in a circle, and Michaela bathed my head with the sacred water, and she sang. I mean, her whole body sang. And the other women sang, and they prayed for me and my mother. And as the warm Gulf washed over my naked head, I realized that it held the best and the worst of us. It was the greed and recklessness that led to the drilling explosion. It was all the lies that got told before and after. It was the honey in the water that made it sweet. It was the oil that made it sick. It was my head that was bald and comfortable now without a hat. It was my whole self melting into Michaela's lap. It was the tears that were indistinguishable from the gulfs that were falling down my cheeks. It was finally being in my body. It was the sorrow that's taken so long. It was finding my place and the huge responsibility that comes with connection. It was the continuing devastating war in the Congo and the indifference of the world. It was the...
Whoa. Okay, now we have to stop. Stop. You mean the indifference to 3/4 of the suffering that you yourself show, Eve? I mean, I'm not even talking about the death that men endure and women endure, just plain death and torture. I'm talking now about the sexual abuse. 3/4 of it you ignore completely. And then you turn around and you point fingers at us. Well, friend, as soon as you start picking through that mountain of misery and deciding what you care about, what will give you status on the stage, you lose the moral high ground to turn around and point fingers at us.
I just, honestly, all I can derive from this very, very heartfelt outpouring, her loin's most glorious outpouring as yet, is hubris. It's just all hubris. It's all, I am connected with all of this suffering. I am Mother Earth. I have fetishized everything and pulled it into my gaping black hole of need, right? So that I can vomit it all back out at you to my greater glory.
Yep. And also something prosaic. I assume, Eve, that 40% of women raped in the Congo who are raped by other women, those were good rapes, right? Right, Eve? Good rapes.
I'm sure they are. I mean, it's women, dude.
Okay, for people who don't know what I'm referring to, Eve Ensler in her play The Vagina monologues originally wrote a 13-year-old girl being raped by an older lesbian as a good rape. The girl referred to it as a good rape. So yeah, this is the person who seeks to pontificate on us morally.
Yeah, and talk about the horrible ravages of rape on women worldwide. Yeah.
Yeah. You're in no position, Eve, and guess what? Your suffering is your own. It's not the world's. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
I don't know. Part of me wonders, was she that 13-year-old girl?
Who still thinks it's a good rape? I don't know, maybe.
Maybe.
Who are now rising up. It was my mother leaving just at the moment that I was being born. It was a realization that I had come very close to dying. In the same way that the earth, our mother, is barely holding on.
Okay, just a second. Eve, you know what's going to happen? We as humans, we're probably one of the most fragile species on the planet. We'll probably just destroy ourselves and then life will just recolonize.
Yeah, no, it'll just go on like the earth.
It'll just go on like it never happened.
Even if we had like a full worldwide nuclear holocaust, right? There would be life that continues on, and even if life didn't continue on, the earth would still be here. So, and you know, like, why are you grieving for the earth and the pollution and all of it? It's because that affects you.
Yeah, actually, I just got a warning from Google that we're not allowed to broadcast this material.
Oh my goodness.
In the same way that 75% of
so if we quit on you guys, and that's what was part of my worry about doing a lot of it all at once, is that that's what triggers the algorithms. But if we end up going offline, that's why, guys. Because we can't actually, I think this is fair use because it's criticism.
It is.
But we may not, this particular episode may end up being taken off the air because we broadcast more than like 20 seconds of it.
Oh my God, what a fucking retarded thing.
Yeah. Okay, but let's finish it off. But we'll have to be careful about how long we play it for.
Okay, I'm just gonna play it.
Scraping by. In the same way that there is a recipe for survival, what I learned is it has to do with attention and resources that everybody deserves. It was advocating friends and a doting sister. It was wise doctors and advanced medicine and surgeons who knew what to do with their hands. It was underpaid and really loving nurses.
Oh yeah, wise surgeons who knew what to do with their hands, but they weren't underpaid. No, it was just the nurses who were underpaid.
Well, I mean, you gotta understand the narrative. It's always the women being acted upon. You couldn't
saved your life, but they're not underpaid.
You couldn't emphasize the agency and the effectiveness or the prowess of the nurses. You had to emphasize the fact that they're victims because they're women, and that's what feminists do. Okay.
Oh.
It was magic healers and aromatic oils.
I'd rather doubt that.
Magic healers and aromatic oils. Oh my God.
What is this doing at TED Talks? What is this doing at TED Talks? Okay, I know lots of people are probably going to yell at me, but Rupert Sheldrake's TED Talk was pulled, and yet this remains.
Who's
Rupert Sheldrake, who advanced the theory of morphogenic fields that organisms organize themselves within. Even if you do not like that, at least it has a right to be discussed at TED.
Yeah.
This is total and utter bullshit.
It's just
What is it doing there? Okay, keep going.
It's just serving her ego, right? It's not harmful. It's just giving a mad woman a place on the stage to talk about her vagina.
With spells and rituals, it was having a vision of the future and something to fight for, because I know this struggle isn't my own.
Okay, wait a second. But you get to be the arbiter over whose struggle is important enough to bring to the stage, right? Like you picked and chose. Women raped by other women, nah. Men raped by women, nah. Men raped by men, nah. Child soldiers that are boys, nah. Soldiers, period, men, nah. Those people's problems, the suffering that they go through, irrelevant to Eve.
Yeah.
Eve chooses the suffering that people should pay attention to.
Yeah.
And then continue.
And then it's all in her uterus. In her
and it's all
cancerous uterus.
It was a million prayers, it was 1,000 hallelujahs and a million ohms. It was a lot of anger, insane humor, a lot of attention, outrage.
Attention!
Oh boy, there's the rub. The attention.
Oh, goodness.
It was energy, love, and joy. It was all these things. It was all these things. It was all these things in the water, in the world, in my body.
Well, I think we have. I think that the Dalai Lama, they don't need to look for a new one, because we've got Eve here, and also she's the reincarnation of Mohandas Gandhi, and she's also Christ, and also Mother Teresa of Calcutta, and Joan of Arc, and Boudica, and
Mother Earth.
Yeah, Gaia. She's totally Gaia. She embodies all of this, and with the rest of us are just mere mortals.
I don't understand why this, at the end of the day, essentially what she's saying is that becoming utterly defined by being passive, because before she was saying, oh yeah, I was someone who strived to do things, to surpass the limitations of my body. Now that she's utterly defined by what people do to her, because she has to be saved as a cancer patient.
Yeah, and what the cancer does to her.
Now that she's utterly defined by this, she can finally become one with the earth and everybody on it that's hurting the earth. But it's still about her at the end of the day. And again, I can't help but notice that all of her great insights to herself seem to come with an audience of people watching her or listening to her or talking to her. You'd think that that dark question, that moment where you have to question yourself and really figure out who you are, with other people, it always seems to come when they're alone.
On a vision quest.
Yeah, or just when you're struggling up a mountain and you think you're going to die of oxygen deprivation.
Yeah,
you have to find that last ounce of strength.
Or you're that logger who had he was cutting down a tree and it fell on his leg, and he amputated his own leg and then got in his truck and drove back to town. He was pinned for 12, 14 hours before he realized that he would have to actually do something. And then he cut his leg off at the knee with a pocket knife and hobbled back to his truck and drove back into town. And I think that would be a very life-affirming mind over body experience that would show you who you are.
Show you the depths of your strength.
Yes. Not complaining that they couldn't freeze your abscess before they put the catheters in to drain 16 ounces of pus.
Yeah, well, that is painful.
It is.
I personally hate medical stuff myself, but I don't think that was the point. I think the point was to emphasize that once again she's being acted upon. I mean, I don't understand why she's up on that stage. Like it's not just that she's full of woo, and it's not the woo that, you know, I know people, like I said, that can see it in the chat that they're pissed off, but at least you can discuss Rupert Sheldrake's theories. Some of them might be really out there. Some of them might have some validity, but you can discuss them. You can think about them. This is nothing. This is somebody getting on stage and making an ode to how they're completely and utterly don't do a damn thing. And they're incapable of it. And it's bad because if you do things, suddenly your body is being raped by you doing the things that you're doing. And that's this is it. All she is, the only reason she's up on that stage is to talk about how she's incapable, how other people have done things to her.
And for her.
And for her. So she's up on that stage, and if you replaced her with a mannequin, a blow-up doll, and you just had a recitation of all the things that happened to that blow-up doll, nothing would change. That's her only noteworthiness, is the fact that she just had things happen to her, and she appropriates the stories of other women that have had things happen to them, and that's it. These are the women that we hold up as our ideals in this society. Women who have had things happen to them. Wow, that certainly shows a lot of it doesn't show anything. A fucking sack of clay. A clay can have, just a pile of clay can have something happen to it. If this is all that you need to be to get up on a TED Talks as a woman, is just have things happen to you.
Yeah.
It's just
you can't do it just from having things happen to you. You have,
if you're a woman, you can.
You're Eve Ensler, you have to have things happen to you and then appropriate all of the suffering of the world as an analog to your suffering.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that we might end up being cut off by Google. Because the Google chat on the YouTube video, it's stopped.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So that's not a good sign.
Okay.
Let me refresh and see if I can get it started again. But yeah, it's Google's going to probably wreak its revenge shortly, but we'll keep broadcasting till Karen says I'm done.
Okay, I'm gonna look at the
Cunte. My God, that's a lot of tabs, women.
Oh, stop. Oh, wait. I don't want to go there.
It's just...
No,
All
I
right.
was...
What are you doing? What are you doing there? What are you doing? Okay, but anyway, so let's continue the rant. Like, all a woman has to do is to have horrible things done to her and then appropriate the horrible things that other women that have been done to other women, selectively choosing only women, not men and boys. And then she gets to go up on TED Talk. She doesn't actually have to do anything. She doesn't have to achieve. She doesn't have to. She can just poetically talk about what things are done to her. Is this the role that feminism is giving women?
It is.
You solely exist when things are done to you. That's it.
Yeah. It's what there is.
Yeah, but that just means that you're just an object. Because I hate to say it, Eve, but what's animating you is what makes you a subject. It's not what's raping your body. And that's the funny thing. It's like she's presenting to women this idea that what animates them, their agency, their desire to achieve, any of the things that you associate with personhood, moral choices, any of this stuff, that is actually something that's being imposed upon them, on their bodies, on their vaginas. Their personhood is being imposed upon their perfect vaginas.
Yeah.
It's like this. She is at war with the idea that women are people. And then the feminism says that it's the radical notion that women are people too. No, not if this is one of your speakers who apparently is at war at the very notion that there's personhood inside a woman, and that personhood is something somehow inflicted upon her vagina, and that what women need to do to empower themselves is apparently to consider themselves to be solely something that's acted upon, a substrate, a victim that other people write shit on, and that's their meaning.
Agreed. I think that honestly, it's essentially it's a pay into women's weakness. It's a pay into women's to their passivity, right? That any expectation of action, even imposed upon by the mind upon their bodies, is an injustice.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's any further that we can go with this. It's disturbing. It's even more disturbing when you stop and analyze it.
Oh, it's really bizarre when it comes to how she's fetishizing all of the suffering in the world and just kind of pulling it into herself. She seems to be like this gigantic black hole that needs like validation poured into it. And, you know, frankly, in some ways, okay, with this whole holistic, you know, spiritual healing bullshit that she talks about, with the magical blah blah blah, you know, that helped her get through her cancer and all of this, it is so indicative of, you know, just magical thinking and all kinds of really not nice stuff. It's not good. It's not realistic. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I had my mute button on. It's freaking disturbing, and this is what they want women to be reduced down to. They literally want women to be reduced down to vaginas. Incidentally, vaginas are not actually as passive as Eve seems to think. Because I think what she's going at is that vagina is a passive receptacle of something else. That's its main function. Well, it's only really passive if you're passive,
Yeah.
Eve. And there's a woman in Russia who has the most developed vaginal muscles of anyone on earth who would disagree with you, because apparently she can lift not lift, but hold like 60 pounds or something. And no, it's not painful because your mouth can bite down with like 120 pounds of pressure. And so it's not going to squeeze off anybody's dick or anything. It's just interesting that she went there. That's interesting. So it's like even Eve's idea that the vagina is passive is no, actually, Eve, it's not. Just it's generally a reflection of the person who has it. You know, if you're an active person, it's probably active. If you're a passive person, it's probably passive. And you're probably a shit lay, by the way.
Yeah.
And so it's just even in that she's not even being accurate. Like, and I think she does reduce women down to the vagina because that is, in her cosmology, the most passive organ of a woman, and also the organ that, you know, men don't have. Yeah. So unless they're trans men, I assume that doesn't exist in her cosmology either. But yeah, it's like everything.
Like, and I do want to say that the whole basis, because the Vagina Monologues was banned on one university campus recently, right? Because it didn't accommodate the idea that that trans women are also women, right? Didn't accommodate that idea, that it sort of made the pinnacle of womanhood be that they possess a vagina, right? And I don't think that that's necessarily an okay decision to ban the Vagina Monologues, because 99% of women have vaginas and there's 1% of women who don't have them. And we need to ban that 99% of women saying, oh, this is my vagina. My vagina is an intrinsic part of me. My fucking vagina is an intrinsic part of me. Right?
That's not really what the Vagina Monologues are about, Karen. Let's face it.
Well, and okay, but I can understand, like, the Vagina Monologues.
They should be banned for other reasons.
I haven't read them, and I haven't witnessed the play, but I can understand that there are some women out there who think that their genitals are icky, right? And maybe they could do with a message telling them that, no, your genitals aren't actually icky.
Okay, but this is not that message. This message is mostly your genitals will be raped by men. Let's talk about how horrible it is that men's sexuality exists and hurts us. I mean, really, the Vagina monologues is an advertisement for not having a vagina, really. Except for the good rape by the older lesbian of the 13-year-old.
Well, because it's a lesbian rape, right? So it was like,
yes, that's okay.
So that's okay. It's a good rape. As opposed to all the bad rape, which is like any kind of sex with a man, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't see how the Vagina monologues are actually teaching women to feel like either the vaginas are part of them or that they are
okay
and not icky. Like it seems like it's more, considering what I've heard, and I haven't read, I read a long time ago, what I've heard, it's mostly about how your vagina can hurt you because a man puts himself in it. A healthy sex. Don't look in the Vagina monologues for healthy sexuality. Forget it. It's not going to happen.
But I do want to say that just because the Vagina monologues doesn't take into account trans women, that's no reason to ban it. Like you said, it should be banned for other reasons.
No, I'm being facetious. It shouldn't be banned for other reasons. It shouldn't be banned.
If it's going to be banned, it should be banned for reasons other than that.
Yeah, but the thing is that, well, it really shouldn't be banned because that's censorship. But it should be rethought what it's actually teaching. And if this individual was the author of the Vagina monologues, you really need to spend some time thinking about what she's actually saying to women about themselves.
Yeah.
Because this is really fucking toxic shit that just came out of her mouth in this TED talk. It's like, I don't even. It's a woman who's apparently at war with her personhood, and she's trying to say that this is the way that women should live, that we should live in war with our desires to achieve and to even make our bodies do things that our bodies don't necessarily want to do, which apparently I don't know what our bodies want to do.
Well, I don't want to fucking do dishes, but I'm stuck doing them in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't want to get stitches taken out of my face, but I'm going to have to do that too.
There you go.
The person who called me earlier was a receptionist and my doctor, so I gotta go and get the stitches taken out of my face.
I don't know why you can't take them out yourself. You just need little scissors and then you just pull them out.
Holy fuck, woman! I'm not doing that.
What? It's so easy. Like no. I could stitch myself up.
That's nice. That's really nice. Yeah. I appreciate, I respect you for that. It's not for me.
Not for you.
I'm going to go to the doctor and I'm going to look at him until he gives me some local anesthetic or some shit. I'm like, I'm a baller.
To get stitches out. Okay, let me just calm you, because to get stitches out, you will not need local anesthetic. It will not hurt at all. It will feel like a little tiny pinch. Putting freezing in would hurt more than just pulling the stitch out. The stitch, when you pull a stitch out, right? It's been a few days now, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's healed up enough that if you just snip the stitch, right? You just cut it and then you pull it out. It just comes out. Sometimes you don't even feel it. Sometimes it feels like a little bit of a mosquito bite, right? But getting freezing put in there to pull the stitches out, that's actually going to be much more painful than just pulling stitches out on their own.
Okay, well, I trust you.
He's had lots and lots of stitches.
Yeah, this is interesting advice. It's like when I was wrestling, I would get these sores on my feet because you would be rubbing your toes against the mat really fast. And one guy was like, what you do is you get some Vaseline. I think it was Vaseline. And no, not Vaseline, or some sort of flammable liquid. And then you put it on the sore and then you light it on fire. And and I was like, you know what? I'm not fucking doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
Yeah, no, sometimes if you do stuff like that, it can actually really help. It seems counterintuitive. But yeah, cauterizing a wound can actually really help. And
Oh no, I know it can help. I'm not gonna freaking smear flammable liquid.
like sterno or something like that.
I don't know, whatever. Some sort of flammable liquid on an open wound and then light it on fire.
Oh, geez, Allison, where's your sense of adventure?
My sense of adventure is it's not there. That's not what I respect people who can do that. I'll put it that way. But I myself am a bit of a wuss when it comes to a lot of things.
I only know this because I've actually had stitches removed multiple times. I've had stitches put in and stitches removed, sometimes in the most sensitive areas of the body, after giving birth, for instance, and taking them out never requires any amount of freezing or anything like that. So
yeah. Okay, well, I think with this talk of cauterizing wounds and removing stitches,
we should probably.
It's time, I think, to. I don't know if people can see that.
I can see it.
Wait. Okay, let's present it to everyone. There you go. Wait, what the fuck? Why isn't it playing? Play.
I don't know. Oh, there we go.
There we go. It's sort of playing shit because my internet's is pretty crap. But anyway, if you would like some more of this lovely thing that I'm putting up here, which is us ranting about shit, and we can rant more about Anita next time. Yeah, we'll be taking a break next week because Karen's going to.
I'm going to Alaska. To
indulge her lumbersexual fetish.
To paw through my deceased aunt's personal effects in front of her recently bereaved husband, whom I've never met. So awkward. But yeah, I'm driving up to Alaska with my mom to help sort out my aunt's estate and bring home hopefully some loot. I have heard that she kept her costume jewelry in the jewelry box in the bedroom and kept her real jewelry in a box of rat poison under the sink in the kitchen, where no burglar would ever think to look for it. So who knows what treasures we'll find.
Indeed. And who knows what more treasures we'll bring you on the Rantzerker. So if you enjoyed this, mosey on over to our Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio, which enables us to give you wonderful content like that. And you want that content. You want to see us rage.
You want it.
You know you want it.
You totally were asking for it.
Yeah, we can see it in your eyes. Your lips said no, but your hips said yes. You want more Rantzerker.
Everything else.
Yeah. Okay. So again, it's www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Becoming our patron helps us put on shows like this and put on more shows. All of the shows. They can all be yours.
Oh.